covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Bernier.
Welcome in, fans of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast. Zach Kyleman introducing you all in to our latest edition of NAL Rebound. A little bit later this week, but that is okay. Just wanted to get a few more details for some things that were going on this past week. But yes, we have brought you in to the Week 7 edition of NAL Rebound. As we talked about this previous week on our game day episode, 3 games on the docket. Some unique things going down, some interesting results, but nonetheless, a fun slate of football that we'll be discussing in full, of course, right now. Bringing in, of course, my co-host. Let's, bring him on to the scene as always. The man of the hour, the man that does these wonderful graphics, the man that's the guy on the phone, the Adam Schefter of the NAL, I'm going to start calling him. It is Jim Bernier.
Yes.
Jim, good to have you on, buddy.
Yes. Sorry to the fans who've reached out to us about where's our show. Do apologize. Our schedules were conflicting a little bit. And also, there's just so much news happening around the league. We couldn't really drop a show without knowing most of the stuff that's coming out. But yeah, it's Week 7. No drama, as usual. Kidding.
No, totally. It's been a chill week in the NAL.
It's been chill. It's a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about this week, but we also have 3 games to cover. We did a little bit of a different thing of this time around with the highlights. I had a good suggestion from a colleague, and I think it will be a grand slam for it because it will not just be on this show, also be on our Facebook and Twitter as their separate videos. So hopefully you get a kick out of it when it plays while we break it down some of these games. But yeah, interesting Week 7. I was in attendance in the Shark Tank this past weekend. Place was rocking. Sam came and shined, and Markel Quaid shined. It was an exciting weekend. Some great action around the league as well. West Texas is getting better in my opinion. And again, San Antonio fights fire with fire, and this time it works on their end. Sometimes it burns you. Sometimes you burn everything else. And also you had the intriguing issue up in Fayetteville where the Carolina Cobras went down to Fayetteville and claimed the big first victory of the Carolina Rumble. So Week 7 was full with some ups and downs, some great highlights, some massive hits, and also some very predictable finishes, you could say. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Week 7's here. Thank you for joining, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, join our Discord, join our Facebook page at NWalls Pod, and follow us, like us, click the bell, Bill's Morale. That's on YouTube. I'm screwing that up. But anyways, you know where to go. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
No, you did right. So you got to click the bell when you're subscribing. Obviously, at NWalls Pod for our social media. If you want to keep up with the latest, Jim's been firing out rapid fire any latest news on our Facebook or our Twitter in particular. Jump on our Instagram if you want to get for, of course, episode releases too. But stay tuned, stay plugged in for Inside the Walls for all the latest from the NAL. And I think a lot of items from this past week are, of course, coming up. Unfortunately, in a few recent days, we'll talk about this in another segment because I can only talk so much about certain drama at this point, just because I really am trying to keep like a mental sanity about some of the stories, so we'll do storylines, so we'll just leave it alone. But in terms of game observations, real quick, Week 7. Honestly, I think at least 2. I'll say that 2 of these contests were surprises to me in terms of the outcome, mainly because of I just was expecting opposites, quite frankly. Carolina, I was expecting a much closer score. The opposite could be set out in West Texas, which is a good thing for West Texas. I gotta give them props for such a hard-fought contest and for having the Gunslingers have to play their brand of ball, which is defense, and you got to get in the mud with them, and you got to, kind of stick it out. But Carolina, I didn't see that coming. I personally thought it was going to be closer. The only game that I thought that was somewhat predictable was really the events going on in the Shark Tank on Saturday. I didn't think that Albany was going to walk out of there with a win. That one was I'm not surprised at all. But the other two, I was like closer affairs I didn't think would be expected, I guess. I'm trying to make a general observation before I jump into our Carolina Rumble discussion, because I have a lot to talk about with some coaching decisions in that game. I don't understand certain things that Coach Gunnings was doing, and I'll hold off to talking that until I hear what you think about this past week.
What I thought about this past week is three narratives that stood out to me. Jacksonville is back. Their offense with Sam is just as explosive with Connor. We have a reemergence of a potential superstar breaking out into Tamorian Terry in Jacksonville. He made some great highlights this past week. That's the loudest I've heard the arena in Jacksonville for a long time. It's almost, I can say about crowd atmospheres. You go to games, if it's NBA or NHL or the NFL, where a team's coming in and they were the top dog, but there's blood in the water. It's time to swarm and really, capitalize. You felt that in that arena when the toe hit leather. Jacksonville just stormed all over the field and just, obliterated Albany because it was theirs. It was right for the taking for them. Out west, San Antonio finds a way to continue to win. And that's good. Winning solves all your issues. Like there's a saying out there, winning cures all your pains. But once you start losing, those pains will start coming very notable. Yes, San Antonio has some issues. If you talk to some San Antonio fans, they don't think they have issues, and they have a good squad. They have a good team. But the two better teams in this league, they escaped both games by 1 point. Those two teams have gotten better since the first time they played each other. So
that's what I'm going to wait to bring up. Is this isn't, and not to West Texas, but I'm just saying it's 2 weeks in a row where you've had defenses kind of just essentially slow this down to like a stalled traffic state that the Gunslingers have been in. That does, like I said, that doesn't bode well, because I'm with you. I'm looking at Jacksonville, who's coming up this week. It's a home game in San Antonio, first one in well over a month.
Yes,
but that doesn't inspire confidence that I'm going to see that offense all of a sudden kick into a fifth gear again. Because it's been a few weeks now. I haven't seen that type of offense over with the Gunslingers, actually.
That was one of my observations, is the inconsistency of San Antonio. Yes, they were scoring points. They did enough to win that game, but they needed, again, a big-time 2-point conversion stop to hold on to a victory. They've needed a missed field goal, extra point. They needed a 2-point conversion no good against Carolina, and a 2-point conversion no good against West Texas. I know a lot of San Antonio fans may be listening to this show, but honestly, as a person who sits back and watches from the distance, you're 3 plays away and being 2-3.
Well, I can hear it now. Oh, you're cheapening their wins.
Yeah, I'm not talking.
Hang on now.
They're 5-0 for a reason. They are finding ways to win. This team last year was finding those games and losing them, so they have learned to find those games. Like I've been saying the last couple of weeks, you fight fire with fire. Right now, they're fighting the fight, and they're winning. That ball eventually will bounce the other way. It's going to happen. You like West Texas almost did it. Fayetteville, they just shut down Fayetteville. But they close in Jacksonville, and they were close in Albany, and they were close in Carolina. But they're finding ways to win. Like I was talking to one of the colleagues over in San Antonio about my high school days, and Ed White. We went 6-4. One of my years, I think it was my sophomore or junior year. We went 6-4. 6 of those wins were by 3 points or less.
Mm-hmm.
Our 4 losses, we were blown out. We made the playoffs that year. We played against the 1 seed. They had they won 10 games that season, and they blew everyone out. They were in the fourth quarter with us in one possession game. They folded because they weren't used to tight games. Because they weren't playing us. We were loose. We were 6-4. We were just happy to be there. We knocked off the number 1 team in the playoffs. I think they were like number 3 ranked team in the state that year. That was our Super Bowl. Next week when I think to the 4 or 5 seed, we got our doors blown off. We didn't care. We knocked off the number 1 team in the state. But right now, that is San Antonio. They're finding ways to win, and they're building that character that they can, if it's a tight game in the fourth quarter, they've been there, and teams that are not used to playing those tight games, San Antonio won't fold. But sometimes you can't trust that because you will go up against a team who makes that crucial stop or turns that pivotal turnover into a score. Late in that game, West Texas stopped San Antonio and got the ball back and like, oh, if they score here, this is a game. But what happens? San Antonio stops them and gets the ball right back. West Texas didn't capitalize. Eventually, a team's going to capitalize on that crucial turnover, and all of a sudden the game's flipped. But right now, if I was a San Antonio fan, I'm doing this all day. Or this. I don't know how you're doing 5
either one. I would say the one that works right there. I mean,
yes.
It's the reverse of the camera. Look, I'm just saying that was the surprise. That was the surprise result to me. I mean, you can look at that both ways. Like I said, West Texas has been getting incrementally better.
Yes.
They have added more pieces. They've been doing fine tuning all year. It's been basically like they've been working on a project car over there for now 7 weeks, and that's just how they've been doing. And credit, they're still within striking distance. A lot of that comes down to just, I think you have some adjustments with Orlando. I've got my own, like I said, I'm going to rip into Fayetteville this week because I think they kneecap themselves to me against Carolina. That's what I'm going to lead in with. And when we'll do this in a second, but West Texas, you got to give them props, and we're not going to say anything about this yet, but there might be a move that does help them.
Well, they got additions coming their way. They got Donovan Raspberry, Cornelius Lewis heading there.
Those yes, because those are meant. Those we're going to bring up, and you already mentioned.
No, they're. Oh, you're talking.
There's
about
another one I don't want to mention yet because we had to wait. But if this one does happen, I'm glad it did because I was hoping it would have earlier in the year. But B, then I mean that changes things, and there's some good components over there. So we'll hold off, obviously holding off, but I'm hinting at something. You'll have to see. Probably comes out later this week if I were to guess. So
probably, yeah.
I mean, I would think you know more than I do, but I would assume that's what it would happen. They also got Mitch Kidd over there, or Dan, so I mean, you do. I'm not even lying. But we'll wait and see. Anyway, let's dive fully into games. Carolina Rumble coming up first. I've been saying enough. And I have the most to say about this particular contest. It's that simple. Jim, I want to hear your thoughts. I don't understand the coaching decision of starting James Summers over Rakeem Cato because there's no basis for it. Prior. Yeah, here comes our top 10 video.
My bad. I forgot about the audio. My bad.
I mean, I like the intro too, but like, damn. Anyway, look, I don't understand the decision. I don't know enough about the decision. I do want to ask some of the players we know over there, or someone over there that we know that maybe has some insight, because the way Trey Long and us were talking in our game day coverage was this was still Rakeem Cato's team, and I've had some folks bring up that maybe he's injured, but I want to pivot. I want to come back on that saying, well, why did he play a full game 2 weeks prior against San Antonio? So to me, that comes off as Coach Gunnings and company said, you're benched, and they benched him for James Summers. No problem if James Summers is your backup QB, your emergency relief guy, your person you go to if you are desperate, I think, in terms of a QB, because he can play, but his talents are better off served in the receiving the ball or in the secondary. And they, to me, kneecap themselves from getting a crucial win at home. This is a 2-2 team that if Cato's in, and you saw he came in because of Summers getting knocked out, he leads a touchdown drive, and then the next possession, he gets replaced with James Summers. So clearly something's up there, but it's the wrong decision. I personally want to go ask around about this because I am baffled that was the choice. They completely downed themselves and out before they had a chance. And they were somewhat competitive for about a quarter and a half. But James is not the more talented quarterback. And it ruined it for them. Carolina, they are here. They are the de facto 2, possibly vying for 1, depending on how things are going right now with the standings and power rankings. But Fayetteville, this game is so much better if you have the correct quarterback starting. I don't understand the thought process. It completely, to me, it ruined what could have been a much more fun contest because I think the wrong quarterback was on the bench.
I agree with you. When the game started, I was surprised. I think we were all in the chat together at the time, like, why is Cato starting? Then I reached out to a couple of players and coaches, and no, mostly just players. The coaches never got back to me. And the vibe I'm getting, the thing I'm getting, it's Cato was injured, wasn't playing 100%, and other things I was getting, like he missed a practice or didn't show up to practice. So I can't really confirm what happened. But usually when you see stuff like this happen, it doesn't matter if it's the NFL, college football, or high school, or any professional level. A starting quarterback of that caliber not playing a game screams discipline to me for some odd reason. It just screams like you got benched because you didn't do, team activities or you're costing the team games. And Cato's not. Cato's been actually, winning a lot of games for them. And this was a crucial game for them. Now, am I saying that is the reason why he was benched? No, because I can't confirm it and I can't get a hold of people who could tell me. But usually when that happens, when you see out in the realm of college and NFL, players who get usually benched are players that usually miss team activities, misconduct, cost bad turnovers probably. I don't know. But this game was when Summers came out, and Summers has experience as a quarterback. He did it at Carolina last year. And he did it, I think he was High County, I want to say, was the other team he was with. He played quarterback before, and he played quarterback at East Carolina at one time. He has that talent. But when your team, like Fayetteville, is at its peak performance, when its offense is at, when we saw like in week 2 or week 1 and week 3, that offense is just deadly with those weapons. Summers was there, was fine, and early in the game was pretty competitive. It was 14-14. But eventually, Carolina's defense, who was the whole entire game was swarming. Summers didn't have any time back there to read anything. He did a couple passes where blown coverage happened, but majority of the game, Carolina was just swarming him. And turnovers happen. One of the top 10 plays is a scoop and score from that game. And Fayetteville got behind the 8 ball. And when they got behind about 2 scores behind Carolina and Cato didn't come in, it felt like they were self-sabotaging a loss in this game. And there's too much talent on that Fayetteville team to not have Cato play. And when he came in, he let the team down like a quick touchdown drive. I'm like, okay, then maybe he, is dealing with injury or could have, dehydration or whatever. Stuff can happen. Speculation. But
very much speculation.
But it's very up because we had Trey Long on and we had Cato on a couple weeks ago, and both these gentlemen are very positive about Cato. So I think for me, I think it was something that had to do with team activities or something happened in practice or something. That's the reason why there was a switch. Or Coach Gunnings thought James Summers would have been better against Carolina. And I could, tell Coach Gunnings, you're basically playing the same team because the guys who are on your team played for that team last year. They know you. They know your tendencies because those guys practiced with your guys all last year. So if that was the strategy, that's a bad strategy. Now you're 2-3 and you're 2.5 games behind the 2 seed. So if your goal is trying to get a playoff game, that's not the way you do it. It's bench your starting quarterback because you think you have a maybe a strategic advantage in some position from a team who literally is the carbon copy from the Carolina Cobras last year because they were all the teammates last year in Carolina. So yeah, it baffles my mind. And congratulations to Carolina. They went there, executed. Malik Henry played an excellent game. Adam Smith returning kickoffs as usual. He's guaranteed one a game now. And what do you have to say? The one-man band showed out again this week as well. Wow. The one thing I do like about Carolina, and you knew this game was going Carolina's way when everyone on that team saw the field.
Yeah. Carolina is, and this is why I'll say this right now. It is, they are one of the de facto teams that I am going to be eyeing for seeing come August, wherever it's going to be held, the National Relay League Championship. At least I have pretty high confidence right now. There's 3 teams, I think, after this week. I have no question in my mind. I think it's going to come down to those 3, and then we'll see who's playing one of the 3 as a 4 seed is how I'm looking at it right now. And Carolina is one of them that's in that top 3. The team effort all across the board is great. Malik Henry, consistent as ever, moves the offense efficiently. Their run game is the best in the NAL right now. They got a two-headed monster with Kevin Voiles and Zach Brown. Both of them can cause damage. That's the thing. You don't even have to lane on Brown anymore. Right. You can do whatever you want with both of them because they're able to be finding lanes and are bruising. Nyquan Murray coming out this game, that is an excellent addition to that receiving core. He made his presence very well known. That's only going to continue to be made well known as he keeps building back up Rappaport with Henry, who, again, as you know, played with him in Jacksonville last year. So good to have that addition. Of course, Adam Smith being Adam Smith still. You got Lance Evans, of course, on the other side too. They got options for offense. Defensively, though, this is what I keep getting impressed every week. They've gotten better and better on that side of the ball. And it's different players each week. This week, it was the Kenny Veal show. Kenny Veal was all over the field. And that's not a takeaway from previous weeks, but like this week in particular, like how last week it was Mike Green's time to shine. Kenny Veal took the spotlight from Mike. It was his time to come onto the turf and make and wreak havoc. And of course, you got to give credit to the front line. They were causing havoc too. Summers, he is a mobile guy, but he's not, I would say he's not as shifty as Rakeem Cato is. And they made him pay when it came to a few possessions there, just kind of stalling out drives. But Kenny Veal, my God, he was all over the place, causing havoc, getting turnovers, pickoffs, if you will. Hell of a player, as we have always known, but another show-out performance from him, of course, this week, and we have to highlight that as well. My final thoughts with Fayetteville, and then we can move on. And sure, your context, if anyone is mentioning mispractices, that instantly is a red flag to me, where if that is the case, again, speculative here, but if that is the reason, that makes way more sense to me than saying that it is a strategic choice. I can also somewhat believe injury. However, it's been 2 weeks since his last game, and from the looks of things and credit, I can only assume based on video, and not to mention we were talking with Trey, and Trey implied this as well. He was fine. So to me, I am only going to assume off speculation that it might be a disciplinary thing, because I just don't understand if it was a strategic thing. That is not the better quarterback. That's what kills me still. Because that game, 72-34, there's no way that this is almost a 40-point blowout if you put Cato in, because some of those are off turnovers, some of those are off miscues. I just don't see that. I think this is much closer, and we'll figure out what happens this week. They're going to go up to the Capital Region. They got a week to, deal with another team that I almost don't want to talk about the Empire, because it just how much gets talked in the community anymore, but we're going to do it. But they get a week to, I guess, work on things, kind of. That's kind of the early lead in. We'll see how that plays out. But good kudos. Carolina, the Cobras, they're here to stay. That's another reaffirming win. Fayetteville, 3 losses to the top 3 teams. So at least right now, sturdy in the 4 spot, but got to make sure you keep that 4 spot if you want to have a playoff game. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree. But what's strange thing about this league is you are 2-3 right now. You're still the 4 seed, so technically you're the words of a certain person in our Discord, the Lords of the Muck. So that's right now. You're the 4 seed. So they have the advantage early still, but again, the 3 teams that they lost to so far this year are all the teams above them in the standings. But yeah, it's for Fayetteville. Again, we don't know what really happened to Cato, but an overall observation is that's a key piece that I have there when you're competing against teams like Carolina, Carolina, Jacksonville, and San Antonio. To if you want to push for that 4, because there's 2 other teams below you that have reloaded over the last couple of weeks that will be making a run at that 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll be. I mean, I think the one we're going to talk about here in the Battle of the Empires in that regard. It's funny, they still were very much active in this race, but I just don't know what to expect anymore. Is what is crazy, and we'll dive into this right now. At least the game itself. Then we'll talk about a few things going on because it's endless news at this point. You can clearly hear my frustration because I'm almost getting tired of talking about how much we are having to talk about the capital region being shifted around is the best I can put it. Game itself, obviously you were in attendance, so you'll have a lot more in depth, but my analysis is clearly an overwhelmed one. I would say a one-sided affair, and I'll give credit to Albany for keeping it within 2 scores going into half, without a doubt. But this was definitely one-sided. Clearly, you have a Sharks team that is loaded in a lot of spots. Is Jason Gibson's full team? He is fully comfortable with the guys that he has surrounded him with, and the upgrades he got from Albany have, I think, have helped exceed expectations even more so. Because Sam Castronova is playing at his MVP-esque level self, but Markel Wade, have yourself a day, man. I mean, pick not only touchdown catches and getting some receptions, but talk about an Iron Man-esque type of performance. And this is something he's been working on in Albany. Last year, he kind of came in. He's more receiver type, but he worked on some things in both sides. He was a dog and a performer for them. And he's come in. Talk about a great game for 2-way players. I mean, you get a pick 6, you get a few receptions on your end as well. Getting a touchdown one way and taking a pick 6 back the other. You gotta get some props. And then of course I can't say enough about the Tamarian Tony leaping touchdown run, if you will. 3 TDs on the night. Cameron Solomon 140 yards in his own pair. I'll let you sum up even more in-person stuff. But I mean, it's just very one-sided affair. And I think, I didn't know what to expect for the Albany. They got the right QB, I thought, and they do. Jonathan Main is a good QB, but there's just a lot going on. And there's even still more going on that I'm holding off on because I want to hear about your time at the game. But how was your time? I heard you ran to the commissioner, heard you ran into some folks, got a lot of talkings and comings and goings of things, mingling with the crowd.
I was one with the people. I am like to announce that I am running for president. No, it's not like that.
That took a wide turn.
That's not like that. Yeah, vote for Jim for president, where I will turn this country into a bunch of monk.
He will bring back the Washington Valor. If he's in D.C., he's guaranteed the Valor are back. He'll go talk to Mike Corder real quick.
I don't support that message, even though I just said it. A lot of people look at these games and we see it as a sports thing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe my team lost, or oh my God, I can't believe, my this guy didn't perform. And we forget that these individuals are human beings. We forget that these individuals are fathers. They're trying to support their families or trying to pursue a career in the National Football League or any career field they want to be in. And at the end of the game, I had a chance to talk to multiple people. A good friend that I think is a good friend. He listens to the show. A colleague of ours that's been on the show multiple times. And to the fans of Albany and to the players and coaches that are most likely watching this, the feeling at that game last night, or not really last night, but the
Past
feeling
weekend.
this past weekend, excuse me. There's two different sides of the story. Of course, there are two things that speak volumes about a game, and some of those volumes are how the game is presented. For instance, there's a difference when a team loses and a team is tired and they're worn out. I saw a bunch of players on that team on Albany that were physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. They came into the Shark Tank, and within, I think you watched the game, was about a quarter into the game, you could tell Albany did not want to be there, and Jacksonville just pounced on them.
It certainly didn't feel that way.
Yes.
That's the best I can even put it, and that's nicely,
But the relationships that we've built on this show with a lot of players, one thing that we found out about these individuals is that they have love and a passion for this game because this is their NFL. This is their league. This is their home. And they don't like how their home can get shaken every other week all of a sudden. And from my perspective is the individuals I've talked to are now no longer with the Albany Empire. They're heading to West Texas. They're heading to Orlando. They're heading to Jacksonville. And, of course, they're heading to San Antonio. Forgot about San Antonio because San Antonio did get a couple of guys. This game, well, like I even talked with Manas. He was like, it took me 72 hours to get this team together for West Texas. I brought in additions, and we worked our butts off a week and a half to get ready for Jacksonville. Hats off to Jacksonville. They capitalized, and Gibson outcoached me, and they were more prepared than us. But sometimes when you look at teams, like we mentioned about Cato and Fayetteville, and like we mentioned in the past about certain situations that happen in other teams, like San Antonio's early issues last year, to have a successful organization that wins championships on the field, they must be a championship caliber team off the field. Right now, Albany does not have either. And this week, they're going to play against Fayetteville. There's a lot of wounds that got to be healed. And where I think we're going to have another deja vu of what happened in Jacksonville and what happened against West Texas. It's for the Albany fans. This is unchartable territory for you guys. You guys are not used to losing. You came into arena football dominating when you guys were, introduced a few years ago. You've won 3 championships. You're used to kicking everyone's behind. Trust me, as Sharks fans, we've been through it. They've now gone through 4 straight losses. That city has been ripped of a championship contender within a couple of weeks. And it's hard for them as fans. But I'm going to tell you, to the fans out there, keep believing in your team. The sun will always rise the next day. But last week's game in Jacksonville, if you were an Albany fan, most of you guys may have turned off the TV. You were sick of it. You're pointing fingers at other people. But remember, the players on the field, the Baines, the Cornelius Lewises, the Hardys, the Maurice Legettes of the world, the Cisse's, the Darius Princes. Remember what they did to you guys up there in Albany. Championship caliber. You have a team in the city that can win championships. You're just going through a hard patch. But I just want to tell you guys right here from voices from many Albany players who have came to me. They didn't leave because of you guys.
Oh,
They
no.
were like
No.
They were let go. They never wanted to leave. A lot of these players love Albany. So remember that. But for this past game, what happened in Jacksonville, I think, was the final, like, that championship Empire team is no longer there. I think there may be one or two players there, but the core are no longer there.
Lewis would have been the main one left, and he's now off to different pastures.
But in this past game against Jacksonville, if someone told me this, I'm not going to mention his name, keep his name out of it. This was a closing of a chapter, and a new one will begin, and the new one will be much brighter in the future. And I believe when he says that. I really do. But for the Albany fans, I'm going to admit, I may call Zach out on this because he can agree with me. We despised you last year because you kept winning and winning and winning.
Okay. I very much tried to play the straight man on that. Let me put it out there. I'm not the one getting quotes on the Jumbotron at the championship game or anything.
Yeah, good point. But it's pretty awesome. Again, to the past organization, the guys worked there. They gave us opportunity to get our voices there. But to the Albany fans, get behind the new players there. They're going to find talented players. They're going to try and put a product out there that you enjoy. Don't trash. Don't abandon. Do not abandon. I know you might have disagreements of the ownership or what's going on, but remember, it's your team. And if this is your team, support it. So for the fans and the players that watched this past week, that chapter has closed. A new chapter in Albany will begin. And for Jacksonville, they just showed me this past week Castronova with 7 touchdowns, which he's being credited for 6. He has 7. 7 passing touchdowns. Show that he still has it. He's still one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Bain, who comes off of a couple of weeks of not playing, comes in, and it's Bain of old for a couple of possessions. He was him and Daquan Patton. Or not? Was it Daquan Patton? Yeah.
Patton, I was saying him and Patton. Fabian Garrett did have a TD of his own.
James. They were striking early. They were doing everything good. They were keeping up with Jacksonville. Jacksonville was just making plays after plays after plays. The thing that I like about this game about Jacksonville, which is something we haven't seen Jacksonville do in a few years, that's pounce on a team that's wounded and you put them out of their misery early. Jacksonville did that. Like they I know it's a Shark Tank theme. There was blood in the water and they striked. And that's what they did. They ended the game. Like, this has been a long time since I can look at the scoreboard and go, this game is over and we're still 13 minutes left in the third quarter. Now, I wasn't watching the stream. I don't know what was going on during the stream, but there was some chatter, and maybe that type of chatter reached to the team of Albany. Maybe. I don't know. But I could tell in the fourth quarter, Albany didn't want to be there. They were done.
No, I mean, it's the most decisive victory since week 1. And even week 1, that kind of came up in the fact of trying to be more of a learning curve with Connor Blount's first week and team's first week gelling in live action. But no, it's definitely the most decisive victory of the season for them. The Sharks, I think it makes it more intriguing for this coming matchup with San Antonio going on the road, because again, we've talked. This is right now. This is right now a full roster. It's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
It's had close losses to the Gunslingers and to the Preds that it's put themselves behind the 8 ball, but they do get to play a revenge game just on the road this time, trying to play spoiler. Can't wait to talk about that contest this weekend.
Yeah.
So that should be fun. Jacksonville is back to being one of those scary teams in the league. They're fun. They are fun again to watch week in and week out. And that wasn't saying they weren't last year. Last year they were an offense that Jesus, that volume. Last year we knew, we talked about them. They were an offense. They got to outrun you, and you got to keep up with them, or you got to make them slip up. This year they can do slip ups and go, oh wait, hey, we can. Now we got even more talent on the opposite side. Like I said, we talk about role players. I think that's key. You get stars that are receivers talent wise on the offensive side, but on defensive side, in terms of like some Iron Man guys,
Correct.
I love it when I see Markel Wade make a play. Stoshak, he is very much, I think he loves to go hit people. I look for him every time the Sharks play because he loves hitting guys. He gets fired up. And then of course Gorman, brought in as a specialist. He's been paying off. He keeps on his upward trend after last year's season with the Empire as well. And I don't find many flaws right now with what the Sharks have done. And I love it. I love to see it. The Shark Tank, 7,500 in attendance. It was, as you were talking, very loud. It was a rowdy game, and that's just from someone watching on their telecast. But it was a great crowd, great atmosphere as always. And those guys, I think they know this is a special team that Gibson's put together. They got the coach, they got the player personnel. Now they just got to take on 2 other teams that they've got their own secret sauce, and it's going to be a dogfight up top. I think we are now closer after this week. I wanted to see what Fayetteville could do, but I think, Jim, we are at that boundary of the separation Saturday coming up pretty soon between the top and the bottom. It still is kind of there. Fayetteville's 2-3, and sure, they got a reasonable matchup with Albany next week, given all things considered, but it does feel like that is slipping away the more we've gotten into the year. I think we might see that this week too, coming up with a few of these key matchups. My final thing, this is my last note on Albany, because I am that guy that I'm with you on saying, yes, please support this team, but I'm also going to put out a caveat here because I actually don't know if ownership from Albany, the current one, does listen. I know the previous did or do still. But I just got to ask, like, what is the threshold for patience? I think that's the next thing I am going to bring up, because kudos to the guys that are still, as new head coach for the Empire, Pete Porcelli said in the Times Union, they're upbeat for the guys that are staying. That's great. But how much tolerance, or not tolerance, how much, I would say, patience do you have? Because that's what it's coming down to. You can't run an organization where every week you are going to be essentially cracking the whip and going, all right, everyone get the hell out. That's not going to just stow confidence in anybody. And I guess that's my message here is I want the Empire in this league. I still do. I like the brand. I like the players, the community in particular. The community is the reason I keep fighting for this team. But I mean, you just got to chill out. Let people be. I don't care if AB's playing this week. I'm happy that we're going to get some publicity with that and he gets to be on the field. Cool, whatever. But you just got to chill out. Let this produce. I almost want to hit the movie Click It. You ever watch that one, Jim? Adam Sandler flick? Yeah. He's got the TV remote. He can kind of use it for whatever. I almost just want to be, and I know in the movie it's not a good idea, but in this case, for the Empire, I'm almost like, all right, just hit the fast forward button. Let's just get to the off season and see what's happening. And sure, that's kind of hard for me to say. We're not even halfway through the year, but I don't know what's coming up next week for them. Like, what happens if they lose to the Fayetteville? And that's why I'm kind of like stressing. Like, let's have some. Like, if owners are listening to this show, if any ownership part of this is listening to the show, just chill. I could say even more severe for them, but just chill the hell out. Okay, just let this play out. Okay, you tore apart a championship roster. You already did that. We all know that happened. You are bare bones. You cannot keep tearing bones off of bone. You're just making dust. So you got to chill out this week. You got to let Coach Purcelli and company do their thing. You're going to be bringing a new quarterback, you're going to be bringing a quarterback that was here previously, but still new to the game. It's going to be rough. You got to chill out. You are not going to get a winning team this year right now. You might struggle bus it to 4, given how it feels like that 4 spot is just kind of up for grabs right now, unless some teams get their act together. But you're going to struggle bus. You need to let it play out. I've been wanting, this is like one of my other things I wanted to get and say on this show, because I do not have the mental capacity every week to see a team get ripped apart or have new pieces get thrown out to the curb or have people leave and come out again. And credit, Manas did resign. That was his choice. But we all follow the ownership. We know who we're talking about on social media. There's no confidence when you're saying stuff that's going, new this, new that, new everything. Who wants to come play? Like, chill the hell out. That's all I want. Just chill the hell out. Mm-hmm. Okay? Everything's going to be fine. Just get through the season. If you're dead serious, reset next year. Just get through the year. Build yourself back up and chill the hell out, people. Just be a normal team for maybe 2 weeks or so. I don't know, a few weeks. Can you give me 1 week? Just 1 week where I don't have to hear about something bad that players and fans have to deal with. That's all I'm asking. Just be a normal franchise for a week. That's all I ask.
Well, I'll add on to this. They're right now, West Texas and Orlando are clear-cut 2 teams that are, with the additions they have now, are going to be competing for that 4. I don't think Albany gets anywhere near the 4. I think where they're at right now, they're going to be there all season. And if I was Albany, take your losses now, finish the season, get your fans back, put a good product on the field. If you win a couple games here and there, yes, make it exciting. But right now, the fans want consistency. That is the narrative I am hearing from a lot of fans who listen to our show, people who reached out to me and Zach, who we talked to. They want consistency. They know that they can't get some of their favorite players back. They understand that. But they do love their team, and they want to support the team, but they will not support a team that's currently always in massive turnover each and every week.
Well, and here's an example. Okay, I'll give you this. I like, and given it's a new ownership and the way that some exchanges have been made with the process of changing over, I like what I've been seeing where it's like, oh, hey, look at these random drops of here's a community group for free tickets. That's been happening this week. And I've seen that. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Okay. Let's get some folks in and just have them enjoy a game and do that. But here's the deal. You got to let the team play and do its normal operations past that, though. You can't, that's why I'm stressing, you can't every week, maybe not fully say this, but, hint that things might have to change, or hint that, security of jobs isn't there. Just let it play out. If you want to do this guerrilla marketing stuff that you're doing, which I have no problem with, because you're basically trying to build up goodwill and getting folks in the building to support the team and say, oh, hey, I haven't been to an Albany game in a while. That's fantastic. But just chill out. Get through the season, figure things out as they go, because currently right now there's a lot on this group's plate that either needs to be tackled or is being pushed off because we're mid-season. We really don't have time to work on stuff right now.
Correct. Don't
make your plate that much harder by having player personnel issues or having to deal with coaching personnel issues. I'll give you one thing. I'm glad Ben Bennett didn't leave. At least that there's some stability in terms of that coaching staff beyond just Pete Purcelli. No offense to him, but you are at least going to have your offensive coordinator. So that's a nice piece. At least you're going to have some stability there. A guy that's been there a few weeks. You're going to have most of your roster still there, so there's no mass cuts or anything. There's trades, obviously, but I mean, I just want a chill week.
Yeah.
I think this is me just getting beyond the point of trying to restrict myself, and I'll stop after this. I promise. But I think I'm just speaking for a lot of people where I'm just like, I just don't want to read another thing about something that we're all going to complain about, because you know what? This season's been awesome, and I'm so upset now that we have had so much of the oxygen taken out of the room because of just things not settling down. You know, just have 1 week. Give me 1 week where we can just talk about the whole league and the football in the whole league. That's all I'm asking for, because it's getting very hard for me to not just sit and chill out every week and enjoy football. So
it's aggravating, something frustrating for us, because we're basically the voice of the fans. We hear the fans' voice from all 7 organizations and a mascot. We hear their voices, and we're translating or summarizing so many people's voices to express on this show, so the owners can hear what is happening to the fan, what the fans think. And the narrative is, you mentioned it, and I just mentioned, the narrative is there. There is a fan base in Albany that loves their team, that they're
very
losing
much
faith.
so.
They're losing faith of it because there's no consistency.
I mean, God
Yes,
bless those people, man. I mean,
yes,
the diehards of that team. Hats off to you. You've had so much to go through this
yes.
year. Whether
And
it was instigated purposely or not,
yeah,
that's all I can tell you.
but there are some bright spots on Albany's sides. Fabian Guerra, Young, Patton, like those are and they're getting Kerry Starks over from West Texas in a trade. There are some,
That's so surprising to me that that was part of the deal. I mean, yeah,
and
they lose Cornelius Lewis, but man,
yes,
it's a nice one
uh,
coming back your way.
they're getting a good addition. So there are some bright spots in the dark time. Um, what the commissioners had said in the tweet: when people see chaos, I see light. So talking with the commissioner and seeing seeing his belief, um, I support what's going on. Right now, you think that's chaos, but I can see the light. And I've talked to so many players, fans about the situation, and the narrative of all of them are the same, all around. It's they love the city of Albany. There's just things that will just that cause them to leave. They would have never left Albany by themselves. Um, that's a lot of the narrative I'm getting from a lot of the players. They still love the city. It's not because of you guys. It's just a business, and sometimes you have to follow what the business tells you to. But there are bright spots in Albany, and eventually the Empire will be rebuilt again, and they will go back to their dominant ways. But right now, I saw one of our fans saying that Rome is burning. Yes, Rome is burning, but the fires are getting put out slowly. Stick
Mm-hmm.
with your team. You got some great talent. There's other rumors of additions coming your way over the next couple of days that will make you guys pretty happy. And you might have to take a couple of losses this year that you're not expected to, but get to the off season, reevaluate, and come back in 2024 and compete. Right now, for Albany's sake, is for the fans, don't boycott. Go to the arena, support the fans, or support the team, support the players. They love when the crowd's packed. They love your energy. They love your attention. They love your fandom. Don't abandon the players. I beg you, don't abandon players, because you didn't do that when Manas was there, and Cisse, Prince,
Mm-hmm.
Nova. Um, give the new guys a chance, and support them as you support your former players. So overall, it was a dark week for one city in week 7, and it was a bright and high expectations. They're coming now in Jacksonville. Right now, the vibe in Jacksonville, as I was there, um, it's championship type of vibe. There's a feeling that this team is good enough to go on a run here and go after the championship. But there are two teams in our way so far in the standings in our way, and that's Carolina and San Antonio, which next week's matchup, which is crucial, which is the Inside the Walls game of the week, ladies and gentlemen, next week. The Jacksonville Sharks and the San Antonio Gunslingers are week 8 game of the week.
It would be hard not to pick that one.
Yes, I know.
That's the truth. And I think this is a great time to move on to our final game of this past weekend, which was the battle for Texas, which I think, if I'm speaking for myself at least, I did not see the way of the outcome coming about. I saw the outcome happening. I did expect the Gunslingers. They are overall a more talented roster to pull this out. Go to the Ector County Coliseum and or the hangar, if you want to call it that way, and get a win. I did not expect it to be that tight. And I think that's what is the main sticking point, or the bigger question is which stands out to you more? West Texas's effort Saturday night, or the nature of how close it was for 2 weeks in a row now for San Antonio? 2 games in a row now for San Antonio, because that to me is I think is what kind of prevails here. As I mentioned, the Warbirds, it's like basically you're working on your project car right now. Coach Smith and his staff, they have been constantly tuning this roster throughout the season, which they actually just did even more. I didn't expect Kerry Starks to be part of that tuning for a trade, but for things they need, Cornelius Lewis is a big need, so I ain't complaining. It is, to me, a fair trade across both ways for players, so it's a solid one. Nonetheless, though, 2-point affair, just need a little more oomph on the other side, on the offensive side of the ball. That they haven't been able to fully find their identity. Defensively, I think more so now after their last contest against Albany, I think that they are finding that more and more. Savante Davenport and Trayvon Shorts have been able to anchor this defense really well in their positions. Now, Kerry Stark's moving on. That'll change things. But Cornelius Lewis, as we have known, can be a ferocious two-way player. So they do get someone that has quality, I would say quality production on both sides of the ball. So they're going to be formidable. Offensively, we know they got Jalen Childress, and that they've been trying to figure out what can make it for something that's more, I would say, hitting it into fifth gear, that rather than stop and start or stalling out the transmission. I'm using car references because I might as well just continue and do it right now. But that's simply what's going on. Albany, sorry. This is what I get for talking about them this long. You could tell my brain is melting for how much I've talked about them this year. San Antonio, here's the thing. Defensively, no shock. We've seen this 2 games in a row. Clearly that has been holding things down because there's been some inefficiencies now with offensive production for the Gunslingers. It's been kind of surprising. Interceptions, as we talk about with Arvell Nelson, they're the norm, but he threw 2 picks this game. And it was kind of all over the place for that sake. And now, as you see on the transaction wire, Philip Barnett's suspended next week. So even more questions. And credit, they can find firepower, but you just lost your number 2 receiver and a big guy that plays 2 ways for a crucial home game next week. And that's an ugly affair. I mean, what do you think? Which stands out more, West Texas or San Antonio's performance here? Because it's hard for me to track which one I think you take away more as the bigger focus from this late and final contest from week 7.
Well, there's 2 things that popped out to me. West Texas performance, and West Texas has been getting better each and every week. That just tells me that West Texas' win in Albany a couple weeks ago wasn't a fluke, that they didn't take the number 1 team to the wire again. And also another thing that stood out to me in this game was Kylie Rashad was very inconsistent, but he made big plays. And Robinson, who's on San Antonio, had a crucial catch that could have been the game-winning catch or would have made the game blown wide open. He slips on the decal in the end zone, and the ball sails over his head in the half. There was a couple of possessions there in the second quarter that San Antonio could have capitalized and blew this game away, or not blow the game away, but got separation, but they couldn't
Right.
capitalize on that. And West Texas made plays throughout the game to keep themselves in it. But one of the things that was crucial is Drew Pearson went out with an injury, and he missed basically most of the fourth quarter, early in the third, so they lost their deuce capability. So that really kept the game close. And also, Daniel Smith, who got released recently by the West Texas Warbirds, didn't really have a bad game. He didn't call. He played pretty solid game. Made a few mistakes, but those mistakes weren't game changing, to say the least. They were just common, like a misread here and a misread there, but it wasn't like a pick six or anything like that. But I liked West Texas' performance, and one thing I was really impressed about was the fan attendance. That was their biggest crowd of the season. There was a lot more energy in the building. I love that rivalry. And also the fans who travel from San Antonio to West Texas, they're about a group of 30 of them. We had an insider, literally an insider, who don't tell anybody, but I think he stole the football from West Texas. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. But it was a. I'm happy that there is a bus trip involved with two fan bases, and I think West Texas will do the same when they go to San Antonio. It happens in Jacksonville and Orlando. We have a bus that goes to both games. That just makes me happy that we have traveling fans. It was a great atmosphere there. Of course, Macho Man Randy Top Gunner was there.
Best mascot in the league. I have to keep praising that.
And one thing is that I think it was Smoking Guns podcast, and a lot of the San Antonio fans were bashing, or they were joining Top Gunner in his antics with all the Gunslingers and stuff like that. But at the end of the game, when there were triple zeros on the clock, I saw something that was surprising: a sign of respect. Like Top Gunner said, "GG," shook his hand with the fans, and went on his way and San Antonio, and that just means a lot to me, because we know it's a game, it's fun, it's entertainment, but we know at the end of the day, we're just here because of the game itself. It's not personal, and I really love that about that interaction with Top Gunner. And Chum does the same thing, but he's not very social on any media. But this game, it felt like the first half, like one of the top plays, number 4, Nelson throws a dime to Barnett. That was typical Arvell Nelson, on the money. He didn't have he wasn't Arvell like this game. He kind of didn't play to his ability like we've seen Arvell in the past, especially with Jacksonville last year. He felt kind of sluggish. He made a couple bad mistakes. He threw an interception early in the game. That kept West Texas in it. But my honest opinion, West Texas, I think, is a much improved team compared to what we've seen them in week 1 against Jacksonville. They're getting better. They got more additions coming. They're going to get even better after that. They're going to Orlando this week, which is a crucial. We were talking about how that 4 seed could be in play now. The winner of that game will not be a front runner, but they'll be in the mix of that, because we don't know what Fayetteville will do this weekend as well. But we'll see how they will improve as an organization or improve as a team. One thing I understand, and one thing I found out, and digging some information and talking to some of my sources, is that it seemed like West Texas completely changed their game plan when they played San Antonio. They completely did something completely new that San Antonio didn't expect. And West Texas stayed like that consistency throughout the game. Coach Tate did something that this week of preparation that caught San Antonio off guard. And it took San Antonio the entire game to realize what's happening. And that's why it was so narrow. But also, like we've mentioned last week, we're trying to make what this is, the Texas rivalry, the Battle of Texas. We're trying to make this a rivalry. it's a good way to have this game start as a rivalry because it came down to a deuce. If I don't want to mess up his game. Is it Luray, the kicker?
Lair.
Lair?
I thought
Lair?
Lair. I was wondering if Lair was going to hit, and he got a second chance. That was what's crazy to me.
Yes.
Is they had a penalty going against the Gunslingers where I'm going, oh man, I know Lair can get it back there if you give him a second chance. He's just got to really nail it. Had the strength, didn't have the accuracy. That's the thing that's down.
Yeah.
And the thing with, from what I understand with the Ector County Coliseum is that it is one of those more shallow kind of like kicking scenario. You have to hit a line drive, and you saw it in his kicks. He had to you have to hit line drives to get it down there. So just couldn't get it nailed. I mean, I'll give props to the Warbirds. They, like I said, they came in with the right game plan. They held the cards in the end. They were the ones that had their opportunities right there. Just couldn't come down with it. And, got to lick your wounds and go back. And again, I'm going to keep using the analogy that it's like a project car. They've been basically tuning all year. And this next contest we'll talk about for game day, you absolutely are right, Jim. With a Preds team that got a week off to hopefully get tinker and work on their own aspects of their game, along with seeing if Joseph Hess is healthy or if they have to go with Jeff Legree this week because they haven't made any transactions, and I don't think they will. It's kind of getting late to do that for a new quarterback. It's gonna be a dogfight over there in Orlando, and they're gonna have some interesting, I would say, playoff implications, to say the least. I want to talk so badly about what might be possibly a transaction coming up for the Warbirds. That's huge. Otherwise, though, without that being said, Smith was released, but Mitch Kidd, who is on that roster, someone that I was really thrilled to see get across the transaction wire, is on there. I don't know how much of our audience watched the FCF the last 2 years. FCF is basically fan can run football, but it's essentially like, I call it pseudo arena football.
Yeah.
It's 50-yard game, but it's not at all like if you watched it, it would look alien to you if you're an NAL diehard. But basically, this guy was playing at one of the top levels in that sport, in that league for the 2 seasons it was there. He does have arena principles, and he's a good pickup. So if they run with him, I wouldn't have any qualms. I think that's an underrated signing that I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in and maybe elevates the offense a bit more than Daniel Smith, but to be determined. Otherwise, waiting to see till the final transaction wire comes for one that we're waiting on to, give proper talks about. But for West Texas, big week coming ahead. For San Antonio, big week, and you talk about questions. I didn't even bring up Drew Pearson, but not having Pearson there, and I mean, it sounds like it's at least a game injury out from what some of the Gunslingers folks we talked to are referencing. That's a little unfortunate. I mean, saying unfortunate is like underplaying it because he is vital to what the Gunslingers are able to do.
Correct.
So too bad. And it's a guy you can't take back to your first home game in well over a month either.
Okay.
So another one lost, along with Philip Barnett being suspended, at least for this game. I don't know how long the suspension will be, but he's at least done for this coming week, given some instance that happened, I understand, during the contest.
Yeah. But for San Antonio fans, don't need to worry about Phil Barnett and being missed. Everyone's like, they were trying to find who their number 3 receiver was this past week, and they found him. That's Kadir Chisholm. Now Kadir Chisholm has to be the number 2 receiver. And the homeboy had 108 yards receiving this past week with 2 touchdowns. He needs to perform. But to really preview, like a little sneak preview of game day between Jacksonville and San Antonio, this would have been a battle between key individuals. It's going to be Kylie Rashad taking on Cam Solomon, and then you got Kadir Chisholm taking on Tamorian Terry, probably, maybe Stoshak is the number 2, and then you're going to have the 2 quarterback battles between Arvell and Sam Castronova. But the key that no one wants to talk about, we didn't mention about this yet, but it happened, the transaction. Drew Pearson is not playing. He could not be playing because of his injury. I don't know the official word yet. He could. Don't know yet. I don't. We will know pretty soon when we do game day. But Jacksonville has a weapon now at kicker, and that is an NAL special team award winner last year, and that's Marco Arasco for play for
He
Albany.
keeps getting better.
Yes, the guy is a deuce machine. In the words of a fellow listener, a deuce god. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll preview that more. But again, there are a couple players. Like I want to try and do this for week 7 shout outs. We did the top 10. We'll post that later in the week for the top 10 plays of the week, probably the same time of the day. But there are a couple players I want to give a shout out for having great performances this week. Kadir Chisholm, receiver for San Antonio, awesome week. Also, again, I'm not going to toot his horn. Markel Wade, Jacksonville, 2 receiving touchdowns. He had a pick 6 as well. Sam Castronova was nearly perfect. He went 23 for 25 for 282 yards, 7 touchdowns. It's not bad for his debut in Jacksonville. Another individual I'd like to go out here mention is Vols from Carolina. He had 2 forced fumbles. He had a scoop and score. He saw that in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Malik Henry had 4 touchdown passes this week, over 300 yards passing as well. So there's other individuals in this week that have done well. And of course, we can't mention a game. We can't mention a week without acknowledging the greatness that is Kali Rashad. Yes, he may not have, dominant numbers with touchdowns this past week, but he did have a total of 126 yards of total yards with receiving and kickoff returns. So he's still a lethal weapon. But yes, again, with that. And also shout out to the big hogs in Jacksonville, Justin Renfro and David Gilbert. That was sacks machines galore this week. Dominated along. Justin Alexander and San Antonio had a big time sack I think early in the third quarter that really changed the game. So you guys share love with defensive players. Kenny Veal, again, a veteran that knows where to be and shine and rock. Childress for West Texas. Almost said Austin. I don't know why. Childress for West Texas. Dominant well, not dominant, but then again, we kind of previewed it last week. It was a battle between the 5'8" receivers. Who's going to be the one that's going to shine? They both played pretty darn well throughout the game. And even though he didn't have a breakout game, tip your hat to Adam Smith. He is due to get a kick return every single game. I think the streak's now at 3 games that he's did a kickoff return for a touchdown. So that's how lethal Adam Smith is. So there are some star players out there. And when this podcast drops, keep your attention on NAL.com, NationalArenaLeague.com, all their Instagram, Twitter accounts, because Ironman, Offensive Player of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week are come out. I'm not going to leak anything out, but I think it's Sam Castronova, Kenny Veal, and Ironman might be a guy that plays in Carolina. So I'm not leaking anything out, though. But, yeah, that's what possibly happened. And, of course, how can I say it without saying it? We have to. This is a massive congratulations. We got to do it. I have to do it before we leave.
Oh, sure.
He's been getting criticized and rolled through the coals by certain people that we know. But Jason Gibson has officially won in the Shark Tank as a member of the Jacksonville Sharks.
Yeah. He won in the Shark Tank. It's his first win there. And
it's actually his second win, but it's his first as a Shark, though.
Well, okay. But I digress. He first as a Shark coach. And he also gets his first win against Manas, probably, and depending on how Manas's journey goes as a coach, that might be the only time that he will get a win against him. So kind of a 2-for-1 deal as well on Saturday. But yeah, kudos to him, man. He's been, Sharks fans been waiting for it. They got it. So good on him for getting that monkey off his back.
It's a game day. It's going to be intriguing. Right now, we possibly have 2 guests coming on for the Friday show. It is game of the week, Jacksonville Sharks and the San Antonio Gunslingers. we will be having a San Antonio member on the show this week to talk to about the upcoming game Sunday afternoon. So get your Carrie Underwood theme songs going for Sunday Night Football, because this will be in the NAL's version of Sunday Night Football. And, of course, the marquee games on Sunday night tonight this week. So that's exciting. But, yeah, I want to just say again to the fans up north, way up north, don't give up, support, don't abandon, support, come together, unite. Better things are coming in the future. Just remember, it's your team. Without you, there is no team. Get out there, support the team at all costs. Because, damn it, excuse my language, I love this game, and I know there's a lot of fans up in Albany that are just like me, who love this game and don't want to see it go away. Go out there and support your team. Go get your tickets now, because I think that game, it's a very winnable game this weekend up there in Albany. We'll preview that again on Friday for game day.
Yes, indeed. A lot of these, by the way, as I'm seeing some promotions, because it is also Memorial Day weekend, so not a bad time to go out and enjoy some time with a family this weekend at a game. Going to be a lot of folks out and about. Arena football's to us one of the better spring, summer, I would say, opportunities to have fun. So go out and enjoy one. Plenty of good ones too that you'll be going out to, and I imagine you'll see a lot of these home games get military discounts and things like that too for folks to support those that have served for a weekend, to celebrate those that have served. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on game day as well. But yeah, make sure if you're looking for a game this weekend to go to, got plenty of good ones coming up. Two battles I think we're definitely going to be saying are crucial, and one that we're going to keep an eye on because owner player, that's kind of a big deal, I think, still to me. Even whatever your opinion is, an owner player claiming he's going to be on the turf, I got to tune in. So I'll be at least having one screen open for that game nonetheless. I think I'll about do it. Yeah. Actually, do you want to talk about what's scrolling on the bar? I guess we'll do that. You've been kind of talking with me on the side about this, and
yes, Inside the Walls is going to launch a Patreon page here pretty soon. The page is just for us, you listeners, to interact with us more content, but the content on Patreon will still be available on YouTube and our podcast platforms. Nothing will change. The Patreon account just gives you guys access to some things that we want to do, some live streams, maybe covering a game, but have live streams where you hear me and Zach watching the game with you, hear our reactions. It's just little quirks, nothing really, outrageous. It's just for you guys to support. Also, we have a store coming soon. 2 shirts that are guaranteed are coming soon in the Muck and Jack Out of the Box. Those are 2 t-shirts are coming soon as well. Of course, join our Discord. A lot of stuff in there. A lot of nuggets, a lot of league information pops down there. Good community of fans there. Get to interact. You have your own sections for your own teams. But yes, that's all coming soon. The Patreon should be here pretty soon. Join again. It's just for you guys, the fans, to get more content from the NAL. But remember, all the stuff that we do on Patreon will be available on all YouTube platforms as well. So you're not going to get any really special treatment. This is a podcast with the official podcast of the league. So we have to, by our agreement, to give all the content out. But this is just an area where our listeners, our fans can be more attached to us and, help us even, get bigger supporting this league. But yes,
that's vital. He brings that up, is that none of this is a mandatory thing. That is, if you want to go an extra step, that like if you want to help support the show a little further, that's essentially what that is, and we will reward you handsomely with more items and more coverage is all. But this is a completely optional thing. We want to stress that is not a thing we are saying you got to do. So, but that is coming. If you want to get a little more access for items, we'll kind of lay out details on that Patreon coming up soon. The t-shirts in particular, though, hey, as Jim and I have kind of gotten going, the muck is becoming more and more a normal thing in our community. So definitely going to be hopping on that shirt. Jack out of the box. We're trying to bring that back more with every episode. So, got to keep consistent with the brand.
And there will be a T-shirt that will drop for the 4C team. Lords of the Muck will be the 4C team. So that will be a T-shirt. Lords of the Muck. But yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I think that's going to do it. We'll give you more details on that. Stay tuned. Later this week, we got our game day for Week 8, and it's amazing. Week 8, and we're still not even at halfway point of the season, but it's coming close. It's closer, but we're not even halfway yet. That's what's funny. We've got plenty of good games coming up this week. You want to tune in for analysis and talk on that. Obviously, more news is going to come out this week, so we'll touch on that when it comes and when it happens. So stay tuned to this channel, or specifically to our Inside the Walls accounts at InWallsPod. Don't worry, Jim's going to be bringing you those hot nuggets in news. Of course, again, I call him the Adam Schefter of the NAL. He's plugged in the know. He keeps things informed, keeps me definitely informed and ready for things, and I am very much along for the ride at this, no matter what. Without further ado, though, as I've said, Jim, before we go, we got to remind the audience, remember one thing before you go. Always remember one thing. Trayvon Shorts needs to remember this one thing. I still haven't forgotten.
How dare you?
No, he's probably saying that as he watches this show.
Oh, what a way to end the show. Oh, don't be a jack out of the box.
Oh.
I press the button. Dang it. All right, whatever.
I got him riled up. We'll see you later. Catch you on Friday for Game Day Week 8 edition. Don't go anywhere. You know where to watch when you want your favorite arena football content. It's here on Inside the Walls. Catch you later.
How dare you?
Come on. Get out of here. Click out.
Covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Heilman and Jim Bernier.